Hello, everybody. I want to take a second to just go over housekeeping stuff. If you could, well, we already know who Carol and Nilda are, so they don't have to put their affiliate their roles in the chat. We know them. So, anyways, we're gonna get Tom started, and if you have questions as he goes along, just put them in the chat, and I'm gonna keep my eyes on the chat. And in the last 10 minutes, we'll go through the questions for Tom and any other things that came to mind while Tom was talking. So take it away, Tom.
All right, thank you, Pat. Now, all of a sudden, I'm going to get a frog in my throat. So, this webinar is on how affiliates can get involved with public policy. And while I go to this next slide here, which just talks a little bit about my background, and of course, now it's going to give me a hard time. Hang on, there we go. I should just spend a minute or two and talk about how I got involved with the public policy efforts here at NAMI Connecticut, because I'm actually by education an engineer. I have an electronics degree and spent over 20 years in the high-tech industry, and never did it occur to me in my formative years in college and first getting out into the world that I think I would wind up my professional career working for a nonprofit, let alone a nonprofit involved with mental health. So how did that happen? So to tell this story, we go back in time now over 25 years to the fall of 1998 when my son John was entering his senior year in high school. And up at that time, John was like the all-American kid. He was uh, involved in various sports. Wrestling was his sport of choice in his senior year in high school, but he'd done other things along the way and really was very active. He was an honor student, regularly on the honor roll at school, and just, had a nice circle of friends. And he looked like he was on a trajectory to graduate high school, go off to college, get a degree, and go get a good job and live the American dream. However, the wheels started to fall off all of that in his senior year when we started to get notices at home that he wasn't attending class and not turning in assignments and was in danger of not only failing classes but not graduating. And his mother and I, of course, are going, well, what's going on? This is not like him, And as you probably have already figured out, he was developing a serious mental health condition, bipolar disorder, and he was just basically a train wreck for 8 years. All the worst aspects of bipolar, the mania, the psychosis, the hallucinations, the delusions, as well as the suicidal ideation. He had all of that in spades, and he was just, I didn't think he was going to make it through. But thankfully, when things seemed really, really dark in our family, and I didn't know what to do, and my wife didn't know what to do, she ran into someone, I believe it was a nurse at one of the hospitals that John had been admitted to, uh, who said that you guys should check out the local NAMI support group. And ironically, my wife came home and said, "Hey, yeah, we're going to go to the NAMI support group tonight." And I said, "No, we're not," because I was like, I didn't want to be sharing my family's dysfunction in a room full of strangers who I didn't know. And as a college-educated person and a news junkie, I said, I know everything there is to know about mental health and substance use. We don't need to do this. But thankfully, my wife's very persuasive, so we went. And, that began my journey with NAMI. Before I knew it, we were not only regulars at the support group, we signed up for the family to family class, and then, started to learn more about the organization did. And it turns out they were involved in public policy. And I had since, during this period of time, transitioned out of the high tech world, got into real estate, and was a full time real estate agent. Still do it part time, but got involved in not only NAMI but the Keep the Promise Coalition, and started to learn about the different public policy things that the organizations were involved with. And before I knew it, I was up at the Capitol testifying at public hearings, and it was kind of cool. I really enjoyed it. And at some point, there was an opening. This is going back to 2011, and the NAMI state office for a public policy person. And they approached me and said, you seem to be really into this stuff. Would you be interested in working for us? And I'm like, yeah, because, what NAMI does is really cool, and I'd love to be a part of it. And so that's how I came to be here. And it's just been a great ride ever since. It can be frustrating at times, but it's also been very fulfilling, and I've made some really great people, not only within NAMI, but also some of the other people that we work with to try to move the ball forward on the aspects of mental health we want to get involved with on a policy front. So, what are we going to talk about in this quick hour here? We're going to talk about exactly what is meant by public policy and why it matters. We're going to talk about NAMI's 4 public policy focus areas. We're going to talk about the roles that the 3 levels of NAMI play, the national level where headquarters is down in the DC area, the state offices here in Connecticut, our state offices in West Hartford, and that's no accident. So we're near the capital. And lastly, our network of 9 local affiliates, soon to be 10 with NAMI Middletown and NAMI Greater Bridgeport coming on board. And then we'll just talk about, if this resonates with you, how do you get involved? So let's get into it. So, what is public policy and why does it matter? And it really, the slide talks about what is involved in public policy. It's laws, regulations, and basically what the government decides to do, or in some cases decides not to do, to address various public problems and, hopefully in the process of doing that, achieve the desired societal goals. And in this case, this is a generic description. They say improving healthcare, and obviously healthcare, and more specifically mental health care, is a big focus of what we do. And so let's talk a little bit about more of that. Before we get any further into this, though, I do want to talk, before I get into the 4 public policy focus areas, I should take a moment and just kind of rewind a little bit, because public policy with NAMI is one of our 4 key pillars. In other words, I think most of the affiliates out there, most of our members understand that, yeah, we do a lot of great work in support groups for both caregivers of and people with mental health conditions. And we do a lot of education to that same demographic, in addition to also businesses and places of worship and provider networks. We do, certainly the affiliates get very involved in community awareness and outreach to get our message out there so people know who we are and what we do. And if there's a need that we can fulfill, that people should, reach out to us. But the 4th pillar is public policy. And I think, rightly or wrongly, it doesn't always get the attention it deserves. So every affiliate that we have needs to be involved to whatever their capacity allows in public policy, because that's fulfilling NAMI's mission, those 4 different areas that I talked about. So when it comes to within the public policy arena, what are we looking to do? We want to improve health. We want to respond to crises, stop harmful practices, and support community inclusion and inclusion. In regards to improving health, NAMI believes that we want to fight for policies to ensure people get the best possible care. This includes expanding access to health coverage and parity for mental health, promoting early intervention and care integration, and ensuring that the right services are available at the right time. In regards to responding to crises, NAMI fights for policies to ensure people in crises get help, not handcuffs. This includes expanding access to crisis services, promoting best practices in de-escalation, and advocating for other strategies that divert people with mental illness from justice involvement. Under stopping harmful practices, NAMI fights for policies that promote effective interventions and that end practices that cause or worsen mental health conditions. This includes advocating against the use of conversion therapy, solitary confinement, and restraint and seclusion. And last but certainly not least, supporting community inclusion and non-discrimination. NAMI fights for policies that end discrimination and help people successfully engage in the community and focus on their mental health. This includes promoting access to education, employment, income supports, housing, food, and transportation. All right, so that's kind of our overarching guidelines of the areas that we will engage in when it comes to public policy. And believe it or not, we do get asked on occasion to get outside the scope, and we usually don't, because we just don't have the bandwidth, honestly. There's so much just within these 4 areas to keep us very, very busy. All right, so we talked a little bit about the 3 roles of, or the 3 parts of NAMI: the federal level, NAMI national, the state level, and then the affiliate level. So how do those levels engage in public policy? As you might expect, again, I kind of gave it away. NAMI National is headquartered down in the Washington, D.C. area, and that's not by accident. They're there so they can advocate uh, the federal government for those 4 areas that we just talked about in the previous slide. They also monitor what's going on in the state levels. And that's a good thing because obviously the state organizations, they pretty much confine themselves to what's going on in their state. But when NAMI National says, hey, there's a bill before the US Senate that wants to, have a good impact on adjusting the mental health parity laws, for example, we want you to call up your senators and say, hey, we support this. Or maybe it's some other thing that's actually harmful. We want you to reach out to your local US representative and say, hey, you don't want this bill to pass. It's harmful. So there is a lot of up and down the ladder, if you will, but national leads on federal, the state leads on state stuff, and that's my role here is to be kind of the focal point for our efforts up at the state capitol here in Hartford. But we also pass on stuff from the federal government. And I also do at times reach out to the team at NAMI National because there might be some area we want to create a bill in. And we don't necessarily have to recreate the wheel. So I reach out to them in those situations and ask them, hey, has any other state addressed this particular problem or issue? And if so, how did they do it? And do they have any legislation that they could share that we might use as like a template to craft our own here in Connecticut? And certainly, last but not least, is the NAMI affiliates, because when it comes to getting legislation passed, it is very much a numbers game. The more people that are ringing up the phone lines and sending emails or buttonholing their local legislators when they see them in the community, the better your chances are of getting whatever it is you want to get passed up at the state capitol passed. So our local affiliates are key pieces of this puzzle. And they're also kind of the eyes and ears of what's happening in their parts of the state. For example, not too many years ago, the town of Killingly had a big kerfuffle where their state board of it, or not state, but their local board of education wanted to expand the mental health care in their schools. And then there was some money that was available to create a school-based health center, but they decided to turn it down. And it created a big kerfuffle. It made the state level news and made a lot of noise because it was like, what are you guys doing? You've got the opportunity to create a school-based health center. Why are you not jumping on this? And it became this big ugly fight. And thankfully, there were people from the affiliate that Killingly resides in, that area, that were showing up at the board of education meetings and the town council meetings, and making it known that we weren't okay with this, that this was not a good thing, and that things had to change. And they had asked me to weigh in, and we crafted a letter to the State Department of Education saying, hey, look, these school-based health centers are nothing but a good thing, and we need to make sure that the town of Killingly is doing the right thing. Now, as it turns out, there were lawsuits. It was a big mess, but it turns out ultimately a lot of the members of the school board that had been against this got voted out the next election. So it eventually got resolved. But that's an example of local advocacy that the affiliates would take the lead in. But again, we do work collaboratively, and where there's a role for the state to weigh in, like sending a letter to the State Department of Education, that's where we kind of work in tandem with each other. And certainly NAMI National will send out action alerts to people who've signed up for that. And we'll talk about that towards the end, where if there is something that they want our membership to weigh in on at a federal level, you'll get an action alert and it'll tell you exactly what to do. And, you can take the action from there. All right, so what does the NAMI Connecticut State Office provide in the way of assistance to our local affiliates and our members at large in the ways of public policy? Well, a lot of stuff. First and foremost is training, because if you've never been up at the Capitol, you've never participated in a public hearing, You wouldn't know what to say to your legislature. You don't even know who your legislators are. Or you're just really nervous about the whole thing and you're not sure about the protocols and the norms. The NAMI Smart Your Advocacy class, which we hold every quarter, takes all the mystery out of that because it's not rocket science. It's actually, quite something that most cogent adults can do without breaking too much of a sweat. But if you've never done it, it can be kind of intimidating. So we take all the mystery out of it. And the good news is someone who's been up at the Capitol testifying for about 20 years now. I have had maybe one or two less than great experiences up at the Capitol where I've talked to a legislator who was not down with what we wanted to do and had a bit of an attitude about it. But I can remember literally like 2 times that's happened in 20 years. Most of the time, the legislators I speak with are very eager, even if they don't necessarily agree with my stance, they're really eager to hear what I have to say and what our other affiliates, advocates have to say, and the other coalition people who are trying to move the ball forward on something. They want to hear what we have to say. And that's, in fact, exactly why they hold the public hearings. Because let's face it, our legislature is made up of lay people. These are people who a lot of work outside in their communities, and they're not experts on everything. And that's why they do the public hearings, because they really, truly want to make the best effort, put their best effort into creating legislation that'll actually accomplish what it's set out to do. In other words, it's going to fix the problem, and there are not going to be any unintended side effects or consequences that they didn't foresee because they didn't talk to the people who are really knowledgeable about this stuff and the people who are going to be directly affected by it. And in fact, we have a saying at NAMI, nothing about us without us. We can provide as part of, say, an upcoming public hearing background information so that people know what's the history behind this issue? What have we tried to do in the past? What have other states done? All that good, detailed information that, the average person wouldn't know. But that's a big part of my job. I attend a lot of coalition meetings, a lot of state-run work group meetings, all kinds of stuff to learn all the nuances and what the issues are and how the best way to tackle things are. So, like I mentioned, I attend these meetings, stakeholder meetings, coalition meetings, to stay up on all this stuff. And we share information very freely back and forth. So if you're asked to go testify at a public hearing, you're not going in there blind. We're going to provide you all the great information you need to talk knowledgeably about the subject. We provide testimony templates, so you're not staring at a black piece of paper going, how do I write testimony? We give you all the pertinent information to make that really easy. You just kind of plug in your name, your address, maybe a little bit about your lived experience, and then draw from the information we give you in the template, and you're good to go. We do host, and coincidentally, it actually is tonight, our monthly public policy coalition meetings, where not only do our members come together, but also members of other coalitions that we work with. Coalitions and other organizations like the Connecticut Legal Rights Project, Mental Health Connecticut, the Keep the Promise Coalition, the Disability Rights Connecticut folks, just a lot of different players that we work with on a regular basis to try to, again, move the ball forward policy-wise on mental health related subject matter. Certainly we provide guidance. If someone is struggling writing their testimony and are not sure they're really hitting the mark on it, I am happy always to review testimony, provide, positive feedback and just say, okay, you might want to word this differently. You might want to include a little bit about that. You might want to just eliminate this other thing because it's kind of a side issue and we don't need to go there. Just, give people feedback so when they go in there, they're giving the best version of their public policy that they can. Certainly, again, just being present up at the state capitol and developing those really important relationships with the key committees that we work with on a regular basis, like the Insurance and Real Estate Committee, the Public Health Committee, the Education Committee, the Judicial Committee, those committees that we just always seem to be in front of on a regular basis. It's good to have relationships with the members and especially the chairs so that they know who we are, they know they can trust what we say is accurate, and that even if we don't agree on everything, we're always going to treat it respectfully and maintain that all important relationship. And last but not least, again, I get involved in different state policy committees and work groups, things to deal with the Department of Corrections issues, the judicial stuff. I just recently got elected to the Demas State Board. So we're out there being visible and providing input at a lot of different levels to, again, move this ball forward to make sure that we're having a really positive impact up at the Capitol. All right, so how do you get involved in all this wonderful thing that I just talked about? So certainly the first step for most people is to take the NAMI Smarts for Advocacy training. Our next class is coming up in December the 6th, which is a Saturday. It goes from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. and it goes really fast because again, this is not, we're not, we're not cracking any atoms here. This is not really difficult stuff. We just take the mystery out of the thing, and we have a lot of fun doing it. Certainly attend the monthly NAMI Connecticut Public Policy Coalition meetings, which again, there's one tonight. If you're interested, email me in the chat and I'll make sure you get the information and I'll add you to our listserv so that moving forward in time, you get the invites when they come out. We usually send out a notice the week before and then either the day before or the morning of the Public Policy Coalition meeting, just a reminder and the agenda and any other things that we think are relevant to have in people's hands before we actually meet in the evenings at 6:30. Certainly sign up for the NAMI Connecticut and NAMI National Action Alerts. I will drop something in the chat here in just a moment so that you have the information that you need to be able to sign up. And last but not least, take action. When I interview people for the NAMI Smarts classes, and when I say interview, it's a 5-minute conversation. It's really more about just the logistics of the class. Are you got a good stable internet connection? Can you get through Zoom? Are you familiar with Zoom? And just to let them know what I'm going to be sending them as far as the PDFs, the worksheets that we use during the class, and that if they want to write on paper, then they should print them out the day before so they're not struggling with their technology the morning of. But also, I always do ask, at the end of the day, you're going to take this class, and the class doesn't cost anything, it's free. Are you going to take action? Because I don't want people who just want to learn something cool and then do nothing with it. I want people who, once they know how to approach this, how do you approach your legislator? How do you create testimony? How do you submit testimony? How long do I have to read my testimony? All those things. I want people to be prepared to take action when they get that action alert email and it's go time. So I went through that pretty quickly. I wanted to make sure we had plenty of time for Q&A. And while you guys are thinking of questions, I'm going to just stop sharing this and also put in the chat the information on how to get on these different listservs so that you get the action alerts both from NAMI Connecticut as well as NAMI National. So just bear with me another minute here. All right. Oh yeah, thank you, Liz. You're right. NAMI National does a Hill Day. Someday I want to go. I haven't been a pest about it because I know money has been tight this year, but yeah, some year I want to go to that. All right, questions. Guys are too quiet.
Tom,
Yes.
it's Liz.
Hi, Liz.
Can you go a little bit of detail about how to build your relationship with your state legislators and actually even our federal policy folks?
Yeah.
A lot of people have different relationships in that they meet with them for coffee every now and then and get to know
Yep.
them. But what kind of things can people do? And also the legislative forums that affiliates can do.
Yep. No, I appreciate you bringing that up. Certainly, yeah, take every opportunity to reach out to your legislators, especially now's a good time because they're not in session, so they have a little more time on their hands. And just introduce yourself. Say, hey, I'm a member of the NAMI XYZ affiliate, and mental health is really important to me, and I'd like to spend a little bit of time talking to you about, what we're about and what's kind of on our radar, and just see how you feel about some of this stuff. a lot of the legislators will have what they call office hours. And it's really not necessarily meeting in their offices up at Hartford, but just being out in the community. Some of them go to a lot of community functions. You might find them if your town has a fair or a community event. They may be there, but certainly reach out to them. Their emails and phone numbers are all on the state Connecticut General Assembly website, and I'll put that link in the chat too. It's www.cga.ct.gov. And if you don't know who your legislators are, there is right on that main home page of that website a menu to find your legislator. And all you have to do is drop your home address and it'll tell you exactly who they are. But yeah, just reach out to them. Reach out to your federal delegates, your state rep, and the two state senators we have, Blumenthal and Murphy. And then whoever your Connecticut legislators are, up at the Capitol in Hartford, you have a state rep and a state senator, reach out to them as well and say, this is who I am and this is what I'm about, and love to meet up with you sometime. And again, they typically will be available in your communities. So take advantage of that. My previous state rep, not so much the current one, but my previous state rep used to regularly have coffee hours. And it was funny because he'd meet at the local Panera Bread for coffee, and I'd be the only one there. And I get to chew his ear for 20 minutes. It was great. And he was very affable and willing to have the conversation. But it was not like I had to work hard to do it. It was a 5-minute drive from my home, and I got 20 minutes of his undivided attention, which was cool. And there was a second part to your question, Liz, about, and now I'm blanking on it. What was the second part?
I'm blanking on my own question.
Pat, do you remember?
But I was thinking too of to be kind of ready in between NAMI SMARTS training, if people want to take that. But do we have kind of a script that people could follow with check points on an elevator speech when you're introducing yourself?
That's part of the training. The NAMI SMARTS training is to talk about who you are, briefly your lived experience, and then wrap into that depending on what you're trying to do. If you're just trying to do a quick introduction, then that's pretty much sufficient to say, hey, I follow the issues related to, the bills related to mental health, and would love you to support the stuff that comes before you. And, certainly I'll be weighing in when it's public hearing time. But if it's a specific bill, obviously mention the specific bill and say whether you're for it or against it.
I know what it was, legislative breakfast.
Oh, the legislature, yes, I did put the word out, and I need to remind folks again. In fact, we're going to talk about it tonight at the Public Policy Coalition meeting. Last year, we had asked all our affiliates to host a legislative breakfast, which is not real difficult. We're not talking about some wild, all-you-can-eat smorgasbord of a million different items. If you get a box of donuts, a box of Joe, and maybe a jug of orange juice, you're good to go. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate. It's really just an opportunity to meet with your local legislators in your local area and just, again, establish that relationship if you haven't already. If you have already, just reinforce the relationship and then just talk a little bit about what we care about. And I committed to being at every single one of these unless there's an overlap, in which case I can't be in two places at once. But I usually try to work with the affiliates to make sure we don't overlap. But you don't have to be a policy expert. You don't have to know all the history of the different things that have come before the legislature. That's my job. You just need to make it happen as part of your affiliate to encourage them to do this. And again, it's not really difficult to pull this off. You just need a place to meet, some really basic breakfast items, and just get the word out to your local legislators who service your service area that your affiliate is in.
Thank you for paving the way for us. I think a lot of legislators know us because of the work you do.
Yeah, I tend to be obnoxious sometimes. But you have to be a regular presence. And I was paid actually a really big compliment by the chair of the Public Health Committee. He said to me, I think you've been to every public hearing we've had this year, which wasn't true, actually. There was one or two I'm sure I missed. they didn't have anything on the docket relating to mental health, so I had no need to go. But I went there. I was there in front of them quite often, and it was kind of nice to hear him say that. And he was a champion for us, by the way, on a peer run respite bill back in, not this past session, but the session before. So he's a good guy. He's supported a lot of what we do. I think someone has their hand up. No, that's my mouse. No. Other questions? You guys are so quiet.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was muted, but this is
All right.
I have a question about the public hearings. How do you find out about those, or is that like from the NAMI Connecticut action alerts?
Yeah, we typically monitor when the different committees are meeting and what's on their dockets to talk about. And when we see the notification that, hey, they're going to talk about the mental health parity bill, the legislature only has to give 5 days notice of those. And that's 5 calendar days. So what often happens is they'll drop something on a Friday afternoon saying, hey, we're having a public hearing on Tuesday. So that means I'm usually working most weekends during the legislative session, crafting action alerts out to our memberships and assembling the relevant information and history and background and talking points. But that's okay. It's I've done it long enough. It's not that hard to do. It just takes the time. But yeah, we send out an action alert, and that's why during the legislative session, you want to be checking your email on a daily basis because yeah, these things can pop pretty quickly, and depending on what I've got going on, I may take a day or two before I can get the action alert together. So yeah, there's not a tremendous amount of warning. The good news is though, this was one of the small silver linings of the awful COVID pandemic, is when that hit, everyone pivoted to Zoom. So now they do the public hearings in a hybrid fashion. You can still go up to the Capitol, and I always say if you've got no restrictions on your time or transportation, it's always better to show up there in person. If for no other reason, sometimes, I'll testify and then I'll go sit down and one of the legislators will walk over to me and we'll go out in the hallway and talk more. So you don't get to do that on the Zoom. But if you're far away or you have transport issues or you're working and you can't take the whole day off, it makes for a nice alternative to be able to Zoom in and do your testimony because they only give you 3 minutes and it goes quick.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Other questions? Guys, you're so quiet. And Andrea, I saw you joined us here, and I'm sorry, I recognize the name, but I'm trying to remember which affiliate are you associated with?
I'm actually with Parents Available to Help Path CT Connecticut.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. I worked really close with Doris Maldonado for years.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I haven't talked to Doris in a while. Have you talked to her recently?
Yeah, I think she's still either working with the DD Council. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, she's someone who is never shy about sharing her opinion about stuff.
No, that's for certain.
Well,
Well, I did already put my email in the chat, but yeah, if anyone has any questions that come up after we end the Zoom, which I think we're going to do here in a moment, if there are no more questions, but do reach out to me. I'm happy always to talk public policy. It's getting me to be quiet. That's the challenge. So you're welcome to reach out to me and pick my brain about a particular issue. I'm happy to talk to you and give you the benefit of my 20 years working in this space.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I just wanted to let everybody know that we will be making the slides available on our website, and we will also be posting the recording of this webinar in YouTube so that everybody who couldn't make it today will be able to at least watch the proceedings.
Great.
Thank you.
That's-
And one question, Tom, with regards to, are you opposed or are you welcoming to the idea of like if I have a family that has questions with regards to what the changes that are taking place with health coverage and support services for their child who are seeking behavioral health supports? Are you like if they have questions that I can't answer, can I tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, this family is going through this struggle with trying to ensure that their child services will be covered? What are you hearing? What do you know? Would that be
Sure.
fine?
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. And the good news is I know a lot of the policy related stuff, but if people are just looking for options, I also know some great resources that are free that people can uh, call that can help them sort out what's their best fit. The choices folks, they're wonderful. So yeah,
That would be perfect.
yeah,
That would be perfect. I get a lot of those kind of calls, so that would be great. Thank you.
yeah, no, please send them my way.
Will do. Thank you for your presentation.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thanks for coming.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Tom. And I think we'll give people a few minutes back from today. And just to remind everyone that if you haven't received information about our annual state education conference, please let us know. We'll send you make sure you have all the information to register. It's October 24th, correct?
Yes, and
I was gonna say
if you
26th.
go to NAMICT.org, it's right in the upper right-hand corner. It should say annual conference, and if you click that link there, it'll bring you right to the page with all the detailed information about how to register and all that good stuff that's going to be included in the conference. And it looks like it's going to be another really good conference this year.
Thank you. All right, all. Thank you very much. And we're here anytime. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye.